Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I am Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. What's up, guys? What's up, insiders? We have an awesome episode for you today. Tonight. It's going to be great. And we have
Can't
a
believe
special
who we got on today. Can't even believe it.
guest. That's right. That's right. A little sneak peek right there. Oh man. So, as you guys know, as you can see, we are sponsored by the Virtual Fight Tour, and we have a big, exciting weekend ahead of us. We got
VFT, baby.
Grudge match, February 4th. I just got my shirt in the mail today,
Looks dope.
so I'm gonna be on the cast, on the stream.
Do you know what's
comment.
cool about those? Because you know when you go to like a tournament and you get like the tournament like golf shirt, you're never gonna wear those things.
Right.
That thing looks dope. You can wear that thing anytime. Anytime. That thing looks dope.
Yeah, exactly. It's cool. So we are all excited about this. This has been something that we've been talking about for almost a year now. Been ready for this fight. Thomas Wright coming out of retirement to go against Trey Lazenby. Both of these guys talking some junk, training hard, and man, it's going to be intense. You know, we've talked about the size difference, as a big thing. Trey being what, like 75 pounds heavier, I believe.
A few inches taller, also.
Yeah, and a few inches taller. Not as tall as what you would think, but he's just a big guy, right? Definitely, yeah. I think 11 years younger or 10 years younger, something like that. And Trey being active. Thomas, though, was always a thinking man's fighter, with the attitude, so we're going to see what happens. He showed up at AKA, and they had some words, and definitely pushing people to just get excited for this event. I think he showed up there to stir it up a little bit, get inside Trey's mind. I'm excited about this fight. Both fighters, I've known for years. What do you think, Alex, before we get into our interview?
So it was funny because when we saw him at AKA, like, Trey's active, Trey's competing.
Right.
Where there's a tournament, that makes sense. The Trey is wherever the tournament's at. Thomas did not compete. Thomas, he stopped by the Martial Arts Internet Network booth. And he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm just here to cheer on Trey." And I'm like, "Stop. No, you're not." He goes, "Yeah, I'm just here to cheer him on. Hope he wins the Warrior Cup." And he said it kind of like, like smiling out of the side of his face a little bit. And I'm like, "Ooh." But then, later on, you hear about some of the interactions they had. See the video that Travis had with the two of them. It's funny. So I didn't realize I was watching it because I was videotaping. I was videotaping a lot that day, right? All day, right? Hopefully people like the way the videos turned out, because if they didn't, man, I'm sorry, right?
Go check out our YouTube. We have individual fights up and forms up. So
go check out the YouTube channel, because they're there, man. It's really cool. So I come back at one point, come back to the booth, because Travis had a load of cameras, right? And I'm like, he should have his merchandise back. So I go walk back after I'm done recording, and I'm watching the interview, but Jesse is right there, like literally just out of frame. I think he was ready to do like a Dana White, like jump in just in case.
Yeah.
Who's to know? Thomas literally traveled states away to come cheer him on. If that ain't poking the bear, I don't know what is. So I'm excited about it. The undercards, they're good fighters. There's going to be good fights all around. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. VFT is back, baby. It's going to be exciting. Hey, listen, I really want to see the documentary. I'm glad that I don't know how much, because I haven't seen any of it. I don't know how much of, like, a little bit, if I contributed to it or not, but I distinctly remember saying one thing, and I've echoed it over and over. I think that VFT could be a big thing to stay for sport martial arts karate tournaments.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely.
No, Mike is right. I didn't know what I was doing. Listen, I just hope the video turned out. I was at one point, there's the tripod, but people kept getting in my way, and I didn't want to mess with it. So I'm literally picking up the camera. I'm holding like the legs of it, right? As they dangle in the air. It was I'm not good.
Oh my God.
Hopefully the footage turned out all right.
Oh
Go
man,
check out the YouTube channel. Let me know what you guys think.
that's hilarious. All right, so we are excited to welcome our special guest on, the many-time champion, coach of champions,
So
King Paul
champions,
Mitchell, champion. Just overall amazing martial artist and in person, Reid Presley. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Dude.
Excited to have you on.
Super stoked to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Oh, man, this is cool. You know, I'm full sincerity. I'm really glad you say that, right? I really am. Jeff and I work hard. I think we started from a point where, and I think it's still to the point where people are kind of like, they're like, oh, you guys got a podcast? Some people are. Some people do say that, like, oh, I had no idea, right?
Yeah.
But as we're at the last tournament, some people have started to like say, hey, man, here's your stuff. You guys are doing good. And that literally is like the coolest thing. So for you to say you're excited to be here, literally, it's like the coolest thing,
Cool.
right?
Exactly.
That's
So
awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, when you messaged me, I was like, I didn't even have to think about it. I'm like, absolutely, yeah, let's do it. You know, so it was quick, easy decision. You know,
That's
so.
awesome. That's awesome, man. All right, so we have lots of places to get to. We're gonna get to one thing in a little bit, but you know what? We do these interviews. Everyone's a little different, you know.
yeah.
I actually want to start with like the family. You know, let's just go ahead and get the big elephant out of the room. What was it like being in the Presley family, man? I mean, growing up in a martial arts family. Now, you are the oldest, right?
Yes, I have an older sister.
All right.
That is not a martial artist, but is still in the education space.
Okay.
Involved with a high school here in Nashville, Tennessee.
All right. Awesome.
So how many siblings are there?
So you have Victoria, myself, Cole, Jake, and Avery.
All right. Five of you guys, man.
Dude.
Mom and dad. Jeez.
Yeah, I'll keep my mouth shut, you know.
Yeah.
But see, the thing about that, that's 5, you know, and we're in 2023. That'd be like having 13 kids in 1955. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right.
That's what it's equated to today, you know?
Oh man. All right. So what was that like as far as you being you were the first one to get in karate, or did everyone kind of start at once? How did that work?
So I was the first. I always kind of have like a stupid joke. The first Presley besides Elvis, because I think he did martial arts a little bit, right?
He did.
Yes, he did.
At least in my family, I was the first. And then my dad saw a father, or really a family class, which had a father and 2 sons in it. He's like, oh, well, I didn't even know that was possible. Let's put the whole family in it. Fast forward, we're all black belts, both my parents. And so,
Wow.
yeah, like it's wild ride, you know, and you'll have to stop me periodically because I'll just go on this like long tangent and just kind of explain everything.
Dude, you're in good company with that.
Yeah. I mean it fully. Like, Reid, that's enough. Yeah. But so we got started just Bartlett Taekwondo. That's where we met Jason Warren right out the gate. My dad was a competitive baseball player. So as soon as he found out you could compete in martial arts, he's like, if you're going to do something, you're going to compete in it. So you're thrown into that. That's where I got exposed to the extreme team that Jason led, RSKC, met the Eubanks family, you know, all of that. RSKC overlapped with Bluegrass Nationals. That's where I got exposed to Matt and Lauren and Kalman and everything there. That's where I had the similar realization that most young athletes have, like, oh, there's a stage. I want to be on that. And then I'm sure we'll talk more about the competition, but to keep it on the family side, you know, Cole and I both kind of started competing. Cole ended up taking a break, and we were the best training partners, for lack of better words. Then
Makes
Jake
sense.
comes along and he starts practicing with my broken bow staves once we were in St. Louis training with, you know, Master Creamer. And, you know, it's something truly special. I mean, I'm sitting in my parents' school now. They love martial arts so much. They're like, we're going to get a school, and they got a spring floor, and it's been crazy. I mean, I can't say enough about the full family feeling. Never really fought. We were able to settle all of our, conflict inside of classes. We never were physical outside. There's one story of me and Cole on the way back from a NASCAR tournament, some fast food restaurant where we started to square up with each other, but that's about it. So it's been crazy. All in.
Wait, what could that conflict have been then?
I
can tell you, there's dozens of times where I don't know what it is, like an unspoken rule. My brother and I never punched each other in the face, but man, did we hit each other?
Yeah.
So what is it that made you guys almost square off? What was it? Did he take your In-N-Out burger? What was it?
I honest to God have no idea what it was about. It probably was because we used to drive everywhere to all the tournaments. So when you have that many people inside of a minivan, you got your grandparents, your parents, you sit there's gonna be some kind of conflict. It's probably beat me in Sapphire and Pokemon or something. Who knows?
And where'd you grow up with all this happening?
So started in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
Then we moved to St. Louis. That's where we're doing a lot of training out of our basement because, with it being in Tornado Valley or whatnot, we had a basement, put mats down there. I'm sure Jason has photos of trophies and training down there. Sometimes he shares those. That's where I got involved with Brett Thompson and Terry Creamer and stuff like that. I actually trained out of that school. Some of my, I'll just say, super traditional side of bow staff because we do the NASCAR style of traditional bow staff, but I was trained by Master Creamer with hands being this way, striking on the side, switching the hands. So I got exposed to that style there.
Awesome.
Fighting, keeping the hands in the box. Then we actually moved to Nashville, and that's where my parents and Jason have the school now.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, Jason has a good comment here. He said, side note, Reid was an incredible fighter and fought with names like Saved Northcutt and was #1 prior to adult divisions. That's awesome.
Then I got scared.
You fought junior team fights too. You fought on Team AKA.
I did a couple times. Yes.
Who did you fight with?
What'd you say?
Who did you fight with? I think you fought with Ross Cook and then
Yes, that was the name I was trying to remember. Phenomenal guy, awesome fighter. Was
it Carson?
It might have been. I'm not 100% sure. But back when I was doing all of the weapons and forms, fight, you're just running from division to division. Half of that's a blur. I don't even know what was going on.
It's true.
It's the white and black AK gi with I think red AK on the back, which is what inspired me. And I believe Jacob Pinto and my family to get the red AK on the back of our geese. That's where that kind of inspiration came from.
Yeah, I like those too. Those are cool. The red on there was cool. Man, that's awesome stuff. Yeah, I've been there as well with we were talking about, as far as just doing every division you can, running back and forth, changing uniforms. It is what it is, right? You just do that. At least one thing that most of the time is nice about in NASCAR tournaments is at least your age division are all in the same ring for the most part. Growing up in NBL tournaments, it wasn't really divided that way. It was divided up by style. So you'd have your Korean ring, then you have your Japanese ring, you have your traditional weapons ring, you have your open ring, then you have your fighting ring. You were in 6 different rings going back and forth and changing and everything. You're like, what's going on, But yeah, definitely understand that.
Awesome.
Man. All right. So, and again, now we have, and what Alex and I were talking about before was that you guys now have become a dynasty, a family dynasty that in sport karate. And, we talk a lot about the Plowden family. Before that, the Austin family, the Tankston family, so many different ones that we talk about. And a lot of times they're fighting families. You guys are, up there just with them as well. I mean, look at all the Warrior Cups, the U.S. Opens, Diamonds. Just how is that now not being the active one? Cool to see, your Jake and Avery continuing that.
I mean, I don't know if there's like words to describe, because it's like a very strange feeling, because when Cole and I were competing, and I'll even kind of put Jackson in that as part of like the brothers as we were competing. Like some of my most nervous moments were watching Cole do a form instead of myself, even if I had a form to do after him. So that's one feeling where your nerves are almost for another competitor instead of yourself. But then now in like, you're not competing, you're not training, and you still have blood out there. Like it's something special, So I was very fortunate. I haven't been attending a lot of these NASCA tournaments at all. So to be able to be at the AKA Warrior Cup just a couple weeks ago, to see Avery and Jake both take one home, that was just, I don't know, it's just awesome. It's like to see them keep going, and then like Jake is already something. He's a whole nother animal, but like Avery at her age, like she would whoop my butt at when I was her age. You know what I mean? Like, so I can't wait to see where she goes, and I'm just along for the ride. I'm their biggest fan.
I have a question, and we don't have to expand on it, but I do want an answer. Do you think you hit your prime, or do you think that's yet to come?
That is a good question. If you would have asked me 6 months ago, 12 months ago, probably would have said like that was my prime, but now like if you follow me on like social media, I'm like posting some hand combos. I'm starting to trick again. I'm doing some like there's a little bit of like tightness and whatnot, but I feel good. You know what I mean? So it's like.
And how old are you, Reid? How old are you?
I'm only 27. So like.
Yeah, dude, shut up. Yeah, I didn't hit my peak. For me, it was like really, honestly, I could say 28, but really it was probably like 30 and still in some ways.
32, 33, 34.
Yeah. And in some ways I'm still going at 39, and I feel like I'm not done yet, So, but yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that, man. And especially where you're at right now, your focus is back on the sport, right? So you're thinking about it all the time. You're teaching it as part of,
Yeah, you're a martial arts professional as well. It doesn't leave you. Like, what are we talking about? Like you just left and now you're an accountant? Like, no. That's what you do.
Someone's like, what are you doing? Get back over there,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome, man. All right. A good question. Yeah. He was saying, how would it be? Like, that would be an amazing goal, right? Is to make it all Presley finals, right?
Absolutely. No, I mean,
we got to get Cole back in there too. I mean, come on.
That's right. I mean, we're definitely, we're talking, like when I ended up stepping away, 2019, I forget exactly, 2018, 2019, are you retired? And it's like, I'm just not competing right now. I don't want to say retired, because I feel like too often people are like, I'm retired, I'm done. Yeah. Then they do a final performance, get a bunch of 10s, and it's like, I'm back, And so I didn't want to do that. So who knows, but it would be super cool, whether it's individual or as a team sync or something, there's plenty of maybe a four-man fighting team or something,
That's
awesome.
That's awesome.
Well, now what's interesting is, so like I kind of asked the last question I asked because Mike just kind of posed that question, like, hey, would you ever come back? And my mind went, if I was in your position, the only guy I would want to beat would be Cole. I mean, Jake, I want to beat Cole and Jake, but it's like, yeah, if I was Reid Presley, I'm not, right? Can't hold a candlestick to Reid Presley. If I was Reid Presley, I'd be like, listen, you suckers are going down first.
Well, that's Alex, though. All right, Alex.
Oh, that's 100% me.
Alex will beat up his brother and his own teammates first before anyone else. That's what we want.
There you go.
Absolutely, they could comment and just say vouch for that. Absolutely.
Like, what's up?
But, and you know what, though, I'll say, because I had a younger brother, some know who he was, didn't hold a candlestick to the talent that, you guys have. But listen, in training, he pissed me off. And part of it was that he was more talented than I was, and I knew it, and he knew it. And he was a more skilled fighter than I was, and he could trick way better than I could. And I still was like, sucker, I'm going to be better than you, though. I don't care. You know? But it helped me because I couldn't do the stuff he could do. I couldn't do this. You know, I don't know why I wasn't as good as this thing. But it's like, what the heck ever. I'm going to beat you anyway. I'm going to be better, right? But that's what I just wondered. I don't know. Where do you think? Do you think you'd be like, listen, Jake, you got this, and Cole, I know you got all this. I would still whoop you, sucker. I don't know. I don't know if you feel that way or not.
But I'm big,
no
bro.
idea.
You know, like absolutely. I mean,
that's what I'm talking about.
What I'll say is like my focus is definitely switched like competitive edge and wanting to be involved with them and trying to like help in any way possible. But then also the sport, and sometimes there's a little bit in me where it's like, can I help the sport if I'm competing? Because then there starts to get like bias that's thrown in there. Like if I'm I'm still thinking, I guess that's a question for like the community itself, not for me to decide. But if I start to feel like me competing to some extent would like add inspiration or something, then that's where that would be my why more than like, I want to go compete and win. I don't know. It's interesting kind of thought process. It's like,
well, let's take a turn. Yeah. Jeff, I'm going to ask you a question then. Do you think, and this is just Jeff and I talk, we're going to pretend Reid's not right here. Do you think if Reid was competing, let's just say he came back, did like 4 tournaments in 2020, right, maybe 5. Do you think that would spark a lot more up this year?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and
okay, you can come back.
The conundrum that he's kind of going through is the same thing I deal with as well, right? Like you want to, when you're at that point of, for me it was being a promoter, and then doing things like pushing, and then doing the podcast and doing everything to push the sport, and then you feel like, okay, I'm making things happen, but honestly, some things didn't start really changing or until I did get back and start competing again. It was like that getting out there for them to see your face and then showing, okay, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I want to help these students and my students do, is show by example, and it's like, absolutely, my students have always done better when I was competing as well, so it's just because they feel that energy, of me like wanting it as well, with them, and it's just a cool thing, for me. One of the things was always like being able to be on stage with my students, right? Or all my black belts.
Oh, that's cool.
Most of my like adult black belts I've had the privilege of competing against, and that's just a big thing that we've always like, all right, we're competing against each other. It's just what's going to happen, And so it drives them, and it's not like some people are like, oh, you should just let them win, and all my students are like, no, I want to beat you, like like that's not it, I just talked to my student Aaron Bailey, who's finishing up. He was a big NBL champion and did very well in NASCAR when he came to some, and he is finishing up at Virginia Tech. And I said, hey, come to DC this year to hang out with everyone. It's like, all right. And I didn't think the next thing was, what divisions, what's the age group? All right, I'm going to compete in whatever you're competing in. I'm like, all right. So he's like, all right, I'm going to do
way cool.
Yeah. So he's like, I'm doing Korean, and that way I can compete with you. I'm like, all right, well, do something else too. Just, I don't want to make you feel bad, your first time coming out.
There you go.
But so I get what you're saying, Reid. I know I went all over the place, but that whole idea, the biggest thing is like action, right?
Yep.
You got to take action. So get on the floor and just do it, and then see what happens from there. If it works out the way you want to, great. If not, I don't think there's any harm in it, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's think of it like this though, Jeff. It's a lot like what you talked about when we first opened it up, this episode, when we first brought him on. Reid, this is way different than any other guest that we've had on, because a lot of guests, we talk about their competition career, right?
Mhm.
But that's not just what Reid is. Sorry, Reid, I'm talking about you like you're like a distant memory right now. Like you're not.
It's all good. It's all good.
Okay. But this is just reality. And then we had the dynamic of the family that we've been talking about. Right. And we have the dynamic, which we're probably going to get into right now, of competitive edge.
Yep.
Right. You clearly are able to communicate what it is that you're trying to communicate to your students and team members, because competitive edge is pretty damn bomb. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you, I think it's almost like assumed, like if you just have a uniform as competitive edge, like, I mean, oh, you're not a world champion, like you didn't just like you weren't just born that way with this uniform, like, because you guys have done such a great job coaching that team up that I don't want it to sound like, listen, you got to get back in the ring, because you may not have to, right? The way that Jeff was talking about, like, listen, I'm going to show you how this is done. If you're able to communicate that, and then they're just doing it, and you're satisfied, not jumping back in,
right? Hey.
Then
Yep.
You might have done it, man.
Yeah, I mean,
tell me about this competitive edge, though. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I was cutting you off. I'm bad at that.
No, I was just gonna say something small. It's like great points. You know, what Jeff was saying is like the ultimate form of commitment. Like, oh, I want to help and be involved with the sport. Will actually be involved with the sport. Like that. Like there's that argument all day long. Very valid. It's like a martial arts instructor. You know, talking to them like, hey, Reid, how do we inspire our students? I'm like, take some classes, film yourself training. Show that you're just as invested as they should be. So I see that side. And then with competitive edge, they also kind of keep it going, and they're doing an amazing job. We had some people the first time involved with like competing for, you know, on the Warrior Cup stage, and they just keep showing up. So it's really something special, considering it all started, you know, Jackson, myself, and Cole, like, let's make a development team. Like we were young guns. I think the parents were heavily involved with that as well.
Yeah.
And so credit to them, you know. And now it's turned into this, we're still developing, but now it's also a force to be reckoned with as well.
Correct.
You know?
Did you ever think it was going to be as good as it is right now?
Think it's hard to say, you know, because like we're all competitors by nature. So it's like, we're going to do something, then darn it, we're going to go all in. But it's definitely turned into something that's amazing, both on the team side, but then also on the seminars and winter camps and stuff like that. So it's really an animal in and of its own, and it's I'm humbled and honored to be a part of it, you know.
Well, when you look at what you guys have created, I mean, you said it like you wanted to start a development team, right? Which you did, and you did a great job of, and exceeded that, right? That's kind of what Mike Welch wanted to do with Infinity, and he had his martial arts schools, and he knows that like competition makes us better, right? It for all of us, it's what's kept us in martial arts longer, because it gave us a different thing to strive for. It gave us a different passion. So now his team just, you got your lady chiming in, man. But now look at what he did with his team. Infinity, like you said, they're a force to be reckoned with. Competitive edge, they're a force to be reckoned with. I don't think either of you guys, when you started it, thought it was going to be that. I thought, and maybe I'm getting it wrong, did you think like eventually it would be a feeder team?
I think it comes down to it when you start something, you kind of have the end in mind, the goal in mind. And, you know, Jackson with he's big history guru. No, so like I can probably say that's always been on, whether it's the forefront or whatever, the opposite, the back of the mind of like where it could go. Now it's definitely something where, 4 athletes made the transition, and, you know, and they're kicking butts, representing the black and white, coming from the red and black. And, you know, we just want to keep it going, you know. And
let's take a moment, since you just mentioned them, let's take a moment. Shout out. Happy birthday, Jackson Rudolph.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, it's his birthday. What are we doing? Yeah.
We don't do many birthday shout outs on the show, but
Right.
if you just brought the guy up, but just came out, I think it's notable.
Oh man. So let's stay on that topic. Just that, because one of the things I was going to ask was who were some of your competitors that drove you and everything. But one of those is obvious, right? Jackson is definitely one of those as a friend, but also as a competitor. Talk about that rivalry and friendship, and just you guys kind of coming from similar areas as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is where I have to try not to get like all like teary eyed and stuff, And I think if Miss Rudolph is watching or my mom, they probably both will.
Yeah.
Well, before I even get into that, I think I have to say because I want to make sure I don't forget this part. With Jackson and I going back and forth, especially when we started truly we're competing against each other, probably more so in the adult division than anything.
Yeah.
I think that rivalry, also Cole as well, really pushed the sport because Jackson was I'll say a unique player in the fact that he's going to train all the time. He's going to be a well-oiled machine. He's going to hit his form 9.5 times out of 10. He's going to do amazing things in it. So when you know that is who you're competing against, you have to train more. You have to always be on point. There's no room for error. You can't make a mistake on a stance. You can't make a slight fumble, especially even if you have 2 bow stabs. You can't. So knowing that is the parallel almost that you're up against, you can't divert at all. You have to just keep on striving forward. So they replaced the ceiling tiles now, but used to be hundreds, I feel of scuffs on the ceiling. So I have to give Jackson the credit of he made me who I was, and he normally says the same because while he's the consistent, always there, I'm going to double up the bow staff and I'm going to have both of those going and sound. Now he is using a tried and true weapon against an innovated, brand new, unique weapon and keeping that from just taking over, that's credit there as well. So and then you have the comma king or whatever you want to say with Cole, the creative mind that he is. You never know what he's doing. He's all right, well, I'll do commas and bow staff. What do you guys got? Or I'll do double bow with Reid and sync without training. So you know what I mean? He's something else. He's very visual and can just, if he can see it in his head, he can do it. So
does that frustrate you?
Absolutely.
Good. At least, okay, good.
And then Jake is the fusion of both of us, and then Avery's the fusion of all three, So it's it's something that, so I always like to kind of make sure that is said about Jackson, and because it kind of made it. And then of course, how can I not mention Shaheen, Tyler, Austin Crane, Pinto? I'm gonna forget some on accident. Cole Eckert, Ross Constant, Jacob Ellis. I mean, it was just.
So the level of high level competitors that you guys had as a collective group for championships was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's appropriate to say, and I mean, maybe someone gets upset about it, but I still think it's appropriate to say there's a ton of high level competition. You and Jackson were above the rest of the group. All right. I'm saying that. So if somebody else wants to get upset with me. Join the club. Right. So with that being said, though, you guys have wins against each other. Tell me about a time where you beat him and you were like, fuck yeah, I got you this time. Or one where you were like, how I should have got you.
Man, that's, I think one of them, as far as a yes moment, and Jackson's better about remembering the whole scenario, but anytime we were going head to head for an ISKA and one of us was going last and the other one of us might be going first, those were always the big times. I think there was one time where I ended up, it was a stacked division. I ended up getting 4 or 5 10s for that performance on the ISCA. It wasn't a perfect score, but that was one, like, there's a picture, Cole comes over and like gives me a hug. Like, that's one of my more fond memories. I don't remember if Jackson nailed his form then. I just don't, because everything else that happened stuck in that memory.
Correct.
Yeah, I could see that.
As far as like, anytime he like, just if he beat me, it's like you always knew why. You know what I mean? So it's like, it was almost kind of like a training moment. Like, he got me. I understand. You know, and I also dropped quite a few. You know, so I was kind of my own worst enemy, for lack of better words, right?
Right.
I mean, we were going head to head for years.
Right.
You know, so they're all factored in there. And one of the, I think one of the first times we went against each other would have been the first, like, dang it, was like AK Grants, and I was doing single bow still at the time, and that's when he beat me for the first time. And so then it was like game on. And then I decided to be stupid and rupture my Achilles. So then to come back, that's when I had to do the double bow staff, right?
Yes.
But
I still can't believe you ruptured your Achilles tendon. Added a whole nother weapon to the weapons form you had while still doing tricks with 2 bow staffs.
Yeah. So
not a human thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. And so, Reid, you had this long career. You competed for a long time. And it's kind of like, I mean, you were known as a great weapons competitor, great forms competitor, overall competitor, had a lot of wins, I think, in traditional weapons as well. But for all of a sudden, then you define that, okay, here we go. This is going to be my thing that's going to take me to the next level. Just explain that, because I think sometimes everyone's looking for it right out the gate. You know, like as soon as they start, they're trying to do something completely different. And a lot of times it's that patience to just wait for it, right?
Absolutely. So, you know, shout out Jason Warren. You know, we were even talking, I think, like on the Century School Network the other day about like CMX inside of schools and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I made a comment like, Jason started us young in CMX, and he like corrected me basically and was like, well, not until you had the foundation, I didn't teach you anything. You had to have your traditional basics first. So that kind of goes with what you were saying, is double bow would have not worked if I didn't have that Taekwondo background, good understanding of the traditional weapon, single bow, creative. Like it all just kind of came together, and also training with Marcel Jones, Kalman Choka. That just facilitated and created the perfect storm. Correct. So that I could do double bow in a way that was powerful, even though it's not a practical weapon. Still, you could see the hits and the power and see the martial arts aspect of it, you know?
Right.
And so that's kind of how it all started. But, you know, going back, I this is where I'll bring up like seeding and stuff, because it's not a secret. Everybody knows about it, and everyone knows that when you first come on to NASCA, you kind of have to build your reputation and accrue points so that you kind of have that credibility.
Right.
So I've had the unfortunate situation where I had to fight seeds probably more than anybody on the planet, because I first started 9-10 years old. You're on NASCA, not on a team, start to work your way up through the points. Now you're seated, you're competing, you get on AKA. I don't even go to one tournament on AKA before I end up getting sick. Long story short, strep throat over and over again, tons of antibiotics, can't compete, leaky gut, you know, all kinds of stuff. Takes me out of the competition world for like a year and a half. Come back, now I'm on AKA. I think it was Ross Constem and Will Greenberg. I think Ross goes up to Will, is like, who's this kid on AKA? He's like, that's Reid. He's like, oh, I thought he died. You know what I mean? Like, so like, work my way back up. That's when I'm going against, you know, Cole Ecker, Ross, Austin Crank, Carson, like all of them. I think there was one time where we did I did like double bow with Jacob Pinto in like a sink, something right around there. You get back up, and then that's where I ruptured the Achilles. So now built the name up, sick, built the name up, ruptured Achilles, to come back again and go for, you know, the seeds and like start to build a reputation again. It's like, I want to cheat that a little bit, or I want to speed up the time. So how can I make more people pay attention? That's where it's like, all right, we'll do double bow as solo. And we're going to make that a thing. And so I think the first time I did it, I still wasn't allowed to do any kind of flips or anything, was US Open. And divisionally went 9-8-8 against Austin Crane. So I didn't win, but I knew at that moment, like, okay, I went like first or second in that division, tons of competitors, and almost won. This double bow thing can work. So then went all in with it.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man.
And you know what? First of all, kapow, my mind is blown.
Yeah.
There's so many names, Jeff, that we forgot about. Austin Crane. We didn't mention him. We didn't mention Tyler Weaver as ones that you competed against. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, it's hard to, I mean, just that time
I know
was fun to compete in, you know what I mean? And it was good on all sides, great on all sides.
Fun to watch.
You know, just the creative side, the traditional side, everybody was making strides and moving, you know, so it was really a fun time. Yeah, it's crazy.
And another thing, as you were given that last one, but bravo, by the way.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like you need to talk with like a writer. You need to get a biography written, man.
There you go. There you go.
I think so. I think there should be a 30 for 30.
There we go.
There you go.
I like it. I like it.
I don't know. It's just me.
Heard it here first. Yeah.
We influence some things, man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't think we know anybody at ESPN, but who knows?
So Reid, let's just kind of, this is part I didn't tell you about, but what are some sport karate hot takes, some hot topics that are on your mind? You know, it could be how the sport's ran. It could be maybe some things you're seeing that are missing in the sport karate, like the forms world. What's something? We'll let you start, and then we'll kind of go back and forth, because this is what we do.
I guess the first thing that comes to mind, I'll keep it in the realm of the competitors. And like I posted like 2 different tips the past 2 weeks, just about the overall like cleanliness of the martial arts side. Like every competitor right now is doing way more complicated things than we were. I mean, you have like shuriken cutters happening. You have all kinds. What was it? Michael Molina just landed like a 4-spin catch inside of a 4. I think it's like the first person ever, right? So like, or 5. It's 5, wasn't it?
I don't know.
No, it was 4.
It's 4.
I watched it and my eyes went cross-eyed.
Yeah, you're right. Good showmanship too.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so with all that being said, it's like I think the differentiator that's going to really set any of them apart even more would be like if they start to do some of the most simple things. Not that they're not doing it. Don't hear what I'm saying. Don't hear what I'm not saying.
Right.
Not criticizing anybody. It's just small things like timing, looking at the targets, having equal force with the hand coming back, understanding the cadence, not going super fast through your whole form, finishing with like big moves that make you look like a superhero and not being super in tight. Like, you know, that's kind of my just soft old man, I guess I can say, suggestion to everybody to just still keep the martial look, because like you got to know what the judges are looking for, and that's one of the main things that they do look for. It is the stances, it is the chambers, it's the timing. As they're adding more, I feel like they're adding more rules to like the musical division again, to where like you match the music, and so like using that creative side there. So I guess that might be a hot take. Once again, not saying anything bad about anybody.
No.
What I'm seeing, I think that could help, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, Reid. I think, you know, for me on my side, it's what I see is the stances, heels and feet coming up, curling up too much. And that's a big deal. And I feel like, and it's not in just creative, we see it just as much in traditional. And sometimes it bothers me because I don't think the judges are noticing it or not. I'm not sure. But I think that's what's going to help people stand out more than anything, is being solid, that foundation to the ground, you know. And when you see that, that's where true power and true composure and foundation comes from, right? And so that part to me is something that I see all the time in every form, you know. So
I like where you went with that, Reid. when the foundation, and there's so many things, there's so many directions I'd love to go with that, by the way, but I don't want to, but, I mean, we all talk about, the foundation's got to be important. Your guy, Jason Warren, he talked about it. You echoed it on the show. Like, no. You didn't get into the extreme until you had a strong foundation.
Correct.
Bravo. Okay. But also, they say, everybody says like, everything is sales. Everything is sales. This is kind of sales too, if you think about it. And I'm a guy who's in sales. But let's think about it. As a competitor, you're still in sales. I'll explain. Okay. Who's your prospect? The judges, right? That's who you're pitching to.
Yep.
You're pitching to them. What can they comprehend? What can they understand? You know what I do sometimes? If I'm meeting with somebody for the first time, I've never met them before. You know what I do? If I know their name, I'll look them up on Facebook. And this is I don't know if anybody's in sales and you want to do this. I'm like, oh, that's a cool idea. If you think it's a stupid idea, go ahead and let me know that too. I don't care. All right. So I do that because what do? When we go on there, we see like, oh, what's important to them, right? Oh, are they a military veteran? Because if they are, they're definitely going to put that on their Facebook profile, right? Or whatever's most important to them. That's what they put on there. So now oh, okay, I'll talk about this. Well, what do we know about most of these judges that are also promoters, that are martial arts professionals? They may not be an extreme martial artist. They're likely a traditional martial artist. So you're in the extreme division, can't control that. You got to be extreme, which it's got to be over the top. But you're pitching to a traditional martial artist, and you're not going to make sure that foundation is set, right?
Yeah.
You're speaking Japanese to them.
Yep.
Unless they speak Japanese, which in our world is possible, right? So look at that. So this is sales, right? If someone thinks I'm nuts, I don't care. I'm right.
No,
right?
You're right.
So I just think that's really interesting. The other part, and I'm just going to make one little comment, and Jeff, you heard it too. You're a Taekwondo stylist.
Yes. Yeah.
You said it. We're just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have this crazy theory that Taekwondo martial artists, they learn how to control their legs like their arms, so they have increased coordination. And if they're able to get out of just Taekwondo and learn other styles, they can pick it up faster and be well-rounded. I'm not saying they are more rounded. I'm saying they can be.
That's a good take. See, now that is a hot take, and I like it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. We've had this conversation before as well.
Oh my gosh, since episode 1. Right?
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah. And Reid and I did at Miami. We talked about this.
If anybody is not listening to episode 1, go ahead and do it, and you'll understand why some people hate us. But anyway, you know what? I'm going to ask you something and give you a compliment at the same time that could be part of a karate hot take. Right? Sport karate hot take. You look like you got a little bit of jackitude to you, my friend. You look like you're friends with the weights. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Do you think for your longevity, people need to really have a fair amount of weight training?
I definitely think it helps 100%. I remember being younger. I mean, way back, my dad and Jason, probably my mom as well, always made me do like push-ups, sit-ups, and squats. Like
we all had to do it, right?
Very simple. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of where like people would almost like make fun of me a little bit with like my chest when I was younger, because I always walk around with my chest out. But I think that helped me with bow staff, with keeping an open posture. So I think it kind of helped me stand out a little bit with power there. Fast forward a little bit more, I want to say it was Joe Greenhall that was like, you guys got to be cross training. Like,
he's big on that.
Yeah,
like,
he is.
You guys are athletes. And so that's when myself, and I think Tyler Weaver as well, he's big into weights and everything. So what I would do is I would go to my gym, I would lift weights, train, do that whole world, figure out like, am I doing my protein shakes, trying to figure out the nutrition side of it. As soon as I was done, I would come here inside of this building and do my sections or forms. My thought process was if I can do my form while I have a pump, then I should be able to execute it when I don't have a pump, and I shouldn't be too stiff. Now, with that being said, if you look at some of my more recent content, I am more stiff now because I have not been doing, the martial arts as much. So don't look at me now. Look at me in the past, right? But
listen to me. Don't look at me.
Yeah. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. I'm getting more loose. I'm stretching again. I gotta get the full splits this year. I'm following Jeff, right? But in short, I definitely do think it can help. I also don't know how the tricking community doesn't do more weight training, at least when I was more involved with it, because it protects your joints.
Yeah.
For anything else, throw power out of it. It's going to help you do those crazy landings and whatnot and have more control. And just having that extra pop on the end of the technique, if you are stronger, you are going to have more power. So I definitely am a fan of that.
So I wanted to talk to you about that. Outside of just giving you that little nugget of a compliment here, which you're doing a great job, my friend. All right. But it's a balance, man. All right. And Jeff, maybe you've experienced this as well, but like, listen, a few days before like a competition, I'm not doing heavy squats. Right. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing a PR for squats on a tournament week. That's not going to happen.
Right.
But then what starts to happen? You got a tournament one week, and then the very next week you got another one. Like, what are you going to do? Just not do them?
Right.
And it's like, what do you do? You know what I mean? So when you said like, I don't know how the tricking community doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not the tricking community, but the kicking community. I don't know, that might sound weird and different, but like, Jeff, tell me what your thoughts are. Dude, standing kicking and lifting heavy legs, those two communities hate each other.
Yeah. It's really tough. I can go into a whole thing about it, but it was just funny talking to Ross, who, has been training me. And two of his first people were myself and Michael Guthrie. And he's like, you two guys, both, like, in myself, what's funny, I've done more weightlifting training than Guthrie has. This year was the first time he'd ever started doing a weight program. And he's been doing this for years. It's crazy, right? And so, but for me, still, I always had that trying to figure it out because I didn't want to lose my flexibility so much, which helped me stand out. But I also wanted to be really powerful. So I always stuck with plyometrics and the different things that a lot of people did for their jumps. I used them for my explosion, my kicks, right? So trying to figure that whole thing out. But the weight part, the strength conditioning, it's so vital to really what we've talked about, the foundation, right? To hold everything together, because that's what really helps you from having those injuries that a lot of times you overdo because you try to be the best at this and you push over that limit. And if you don't have the muscle to do it, or, the muscle endurance to do it, then that's just where those injuries happen. So, but yeah, so I agree. I think it is tough, the kicking community, the tricking community. I just remember everyone saying, I lift weights, but not enough because I don't want to be bulky. You know what I mean? I remember talking to Mike Seafree years ago about that. And he was one saying that too. I don't want to be bulky, but I want to, because I want to be able to move fast, but I want to lift just to kind of keep that, so it's a balance,
Dude, being bulky looks awesome.
Yeah.
Looks
I always
awesome.
think of, what is it? Juji Mufu. Like that man.
That's what I was going to bring up. Juji Mufu. Look at that guy.
In full splits. I'm like,
crazy.
okay, if you can do it, I can do it.
But
exactly.
He's an interesting guy because I think he was like 103 pounds doing the same tricks that he's doing now. Now he's probably doing better tricks. And he just turned himself into like an all-out power lifter, bodybuilder, walks around at 2.5% body fat.
Yeah.
And is still, 315 pounds. Like, my goodness. But I look at that guy and like, I get tired, right?
Yeah.
Especially hilarious, by the way.
Flamingos and doing all that crazy stuff.
Oh, right. Flamingo bits, yeah, it's great. But I think I don't want to talk about Juju Move the whole time until he comes on. But when you're talking about, like, yeah, look at this guy, like he's an all-out bodybuilder doing tricking, I heard him mention one time, he's like, it's a lot harder when you're bigger, right? Doing those things. And that's where the balance comes in.
Mhm.
Like what Jeff was just saying, like, oh yeah, it's a balance. And tell us what the balance is, my friend Reid.
Yeah, tell us.
I mean, that it's tricky. I mean, part of my mentality was where I paired it up to where I would go do the weights and then I would go train. But I think something that's worth mentioning is it takes a ton of time and the right diet and lots of creatine or whatever to get bulky. So I think one thing that I would say is the balance would be do it. You're not going to get bulky overnight unless you're doing something you shouldn't be doing.
Right.
And then if you start to feel like you're slowing down, then wean off of it and just do like more lighter weights and higher repetition. But I'm not, you have to ask Sammy Smith about it. I don't know factually speaking, but I never ran into the too bulky aspect and I was doing it all the time. I think something that's worth mentioning is I like to do things that gives me a boost of confidence because like I was an internal this is where a lot of the wins and losses took place more than anything. Right. So if I was doing things like weight training or reading or anything that would make me feel like I'm doing something that my competitors might not be doing, then it gave me like boosted confidence. And that's where all of the performances really take place. You can tell when a competitor is confident when they're not, and that's where they really shine. So like I had to do things that made me feel more confident. I'm putting in more work, at least perceptually. So I was able to go into that. I mean, I kind of do use that same mental thinking now. It's like, I am going to wake up earlier. I am going to work out twice a day. You see what I'm saying? It just kind of gives you that sense of accomplishment that it's like, okay, I'm that confirmation you're doing the right things. There was tournaments where I would go do some weight training or work out in the gym on a Saturday morning. And some people would walk in and be like, what are you doing? Aren't you competing? I'm like, well, this is just part of my routine because my competitors aren't here and I am. So it's like, you know, and that was just how I would think about it. So what's the balance? I don't know. I think if you get too bulky and you start to slow down, you don't like how your form feels, then make a change.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, and there's always small adjustments that come along the way. You know what I mean? There's different things you learn how to do, and you tweak it. Either you change it a few weeks before the tournament. You know, and that's kind of what we do. We kind of have, especially during like that break, that December was build. January, those 2 weeks before, it's more of explosion type things to help you get ready for that, and also balance. So kind of an isometric day and kind of a explosion day, kind of those types of things. So definitely interesting. I love your mindset towards this, man. It's always what's the extra that I can do that someone else isn't doing. Definitely can agree with that, and I know for me going in as a kicker in creative forms or in extreme forms, I always just had it. Well, I know whatever I do, I'm going to do it the best anyone. No one's going to touch me on this area. And that's that confidence. And that's the same thing. It's like, no one's going to touch what I do with double bow. No one's going to touch what you do, what you do or I do, what in your head, what you're saying to yourself with this power and the stances, and that's what you got to have. And that's what I think we need to just encourage our competitors to do, right? It's here, So I love it. All right. So we're going to go into we're going to finish up, but we want to talk about one of our newest sponsors, and that is the Ocean State Grand Nationals, March 30th, April 1st. Man, they are doing it right this year. We are excited to be a part of that and the Martial Arts Internetwork to be a part of the Ocean State Nationals. Next week, actually, the Rodriguezes are going to be on the show. So we're going to have a great interview about that and talk about their tournament. They are doing something that I feel like every tournament should be doing. They went ahead and put out what the prize money is going to be, and put it out to everyone. They upped it back to pre-COVID prizes. They're even adding more things, and I mean, I think the top 8 competitors in the men's and women's open weight are going to be getting money. So that's awesome, right? So, and they're doing the runner-up money again for forms of weapons, which needs to happen.
Yep.
They increased the prize money. So I'm just super excited for us to be a part of that. I know I'm going to be up there for that event. Reid, you were a member of John Paul Mitchell, and you've been to that event many times. Share about the Ocean State.
Absolutely. Well, before I forget, since they're taking that step and they're putting themselves out there, competitors, go support them.
Exactly.
If you want that to be a recurring theme,
Yep.
then show everybody that that's what you guys want. So this is your opportunity, right? So
Exactly.
I just want to say that right there.
Right.
Reward good behavior. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So simple. So that tournament has always been something where it's like, if your goal is to be on Paul Mitchell, then you definitely go support at that tournament. So you want to be there. You want to win on that stage. And so there's always that extra pressure. It would be what I would consider sometimes that extra pressure tournament. Sometimes it's the trophy, Warrior Cup, US Open, Diamond Ring. Sometimes you have that extra pressure because it's like, I want that. I want that legacy. So that's there. What I will say is, talk about pressure. There's a little bit more pressure. I know this might be one of the hot takes. When you're on Paul Mitchell, there's more pressure when you're there because you better win that tournament, and everyone's looking for reasons to not let you win there. So
That's a great point.
You have to kind of have that understanding.
Well, it's like your home tournament, right? That's kind of the way. It's like a home game, right? You got to win at home, right?
So there's that, and then some of the coolest parts is like viewing that tournament as an opportunity, being a part of it. Then you start going to like, we would do shoots there once you're on the team. Then some of the meetings, it's very, I guess now it would be nostalgic, but back then it just felt really cool. So like I have a lot of very fond memories. It always was a great time to go visit Mr. Babcock's school as it came. So like we would kind of go up there and take us out on his boat and whatnot. Right. But I'd go support the tournament. I mean, you won't be disappointed, and it's a good opportunity as well to kind of get yourself out there.
The other thing that they've always done great in the past was that they would go and support local charities, local children's hospitals, and bring out Paul Mitchell, bring out their people from their martial arts school, people from the local area that maybe support Crane, and go out there and support that and show, hey, sport martial arts is reaching out to everyone. And so I always thought that's really cool. And I know that's something that they do every year. So to me, that's a cool way to step out of it,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those once again, there's no words for those hospital visits.
Right.
It's talk about giving back. That's like the ultimate thing, high fiving those kids, and it's that's what I gotta say.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. This is gonna be a great event, man. And this is next week we're gonna talk a lot about it. But again, guys, go out and support Ocean State Grand Nationals. So it's gonna be a big one.
Reid, what is your favorite Ocean State Grand Nationals moment? Was it? And you know what? It doesn't have to be a championship win. What is your favorite moment?
The first thing that comes to mind, I don't know the year. Ask Jackson.
Jackson always knows.
Ask Jackson.
He's probably listening right now.
I'm not 100% sure the outcome of the division. I wasn't in it, but it's where Cole and Jackson were going head to head. And I think it was one time that Cole just came out and just was like, I'm Cole Presley. What's up? So I think that's one of my favorite moments of that tournament. And it kind of goes back to when I was most nervous watching him compete. Right. Yeah. So that would have to be with one of those,
That's cool, man. That's so cool. And again, that kind of sums it all up, want to be your best, but also want to inspire your family, with Avery, Jake, Cole, and be there and support them. And then the way you've done that with Competitive Edge, and then everything you're doing with Equip now. So keep that up, man. We're super proud to have you in our world. You know what I mean?
Oh, heck yeah.
And dude, one more thing. I got to shout your dad too, man. Your dad, I don't know where
dude.
He's a cool dude. He works his tail off every tournament. And I don't remember when it was, but we're at somewhere and he just comes up to me. He's like, I'm like one of your biggest fans, right? Like, like what? And it was so funny to me. Like, and this was years ago. And I was like, no, all right. It's like, yeah, man, I love what you do. Keep it up. I'm like, thank you, sir. It was just funny.
Now, wait a minute, Jeff, I got to ask you. Now, the conversation, I'm assuming, was 20 seconds long, and then he had to run somewhere.
Oh,
right?
yeah, of course.
Because that's what it is.
Yeah.
You could have like 4 conversations with him in a day, but in totality, it was a minute and 40 seconds long. Right? Because and some of them were similar, but it's always like, hey, hop, boom, and he's gone. Because he's everywhere, all over the building, right? And you were like, I thought, Dennis Brown was running this tournament. No, I thought Greg Ruth was taking control. No.
Yep.
He loves it. I mean, he is all in. So
he is, man.
He is. Oh, man. Well, we had an awesome time sharing with you, Reid, and I'm sure we will have you on again.
I hope so.
Yes, we hope to have you again, man. When's the next time people will see you? What's the next event you're going to go to?
So I am figuring that out now. I don't know if it will be Competes, but Ocean States is definitely on the radar. It'll be sooner than later. I'm not going to wait. I can 100% say Battle of Atlanta, but that's quite some time from now. So it will be before that. I'm just, this year has been very busy. So like, I'm trying to like just solidify everything, but it will be soon.
Awesome, man. Awesome, man.
Would it be 100% out of the question that you would compete this year?
With double bow, probably out of the question. But I don't like to. It's too early in the year to say like yes or no to anything. So it's never out of the question. But I will say it is not a solidified plan. I don't have a tournament in mind. I'm just kind of. I mean, I'm doing martial arts, so like you could assume that I'm training. Because I'm doing the weights. I'm coming in doing sections. But I don't have a tournament in mind. I don't have a division in mind. I'm just getting back in the sport. So wherever life takes me.
Do you know what's funny though? Like you just said it. Like you're doing sections. These are guys who do this all the time. It always blew my mind when people would come after not competing for so long, and they're like, "Oh man, I got to come make a form." And I never had that because I'm always like, "Yeah, I haven't competed in like 6-7 years." In a creative or extreme form, but I always have one because I'm always doing sections, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So like if I wanted to go do yada yada tournament, okay, yeah, of course I have a form because I'm just doing sections.
Right.
I gotta do something, right?
That's true. That's so
I
true.
mean, we were trying to calculate it not too long ago, like the amount of just forms sections done like over the span of like 15 years of competition. And the only reason why I bring that up is like I don't know about my opening move, but I could replicate my past double bow form. I'm not going to say right now because then you'd be like, we'll do it now. No, I'm not going to do it now. But you know what I'm saying? Like it's still there. Like I did a little demo at a seminar not too long ago and basically was able to do it. So like, and that's only credit to all of the hours that went into training prior, so it's muscle memory is muscle memory, so young athletes put in the time, do the extra divisions. You can't beat ring time. You can't beat it. That is where you're at the highest adrenaline, the highest nerves. You got to get out there. So
definitely.
I'm going to drop this one little piece before we take off because we were talking about Ocean State. My favorite part of the Ocean State Grand Nationals, and I hope everybody gets a chance to, experience this. There is a restaurant nearby the tournament called the Crow's Nest, and this is like the best seafood I've ever had.
Wow.
It's like a Reid, you're nodding like you know this place. You know this
I'm
place?
pretty sure I've been there. I think so.
Oh my gosh. They have this 3-pound stuffed lobster. My goodness. Right? This is definitely an after tournament meal, by the way.
Yeah.
Right? This
Go
is
win
like
that prize
you can
money.
squeeze it in after
right.
eliminations, before the finals. If you're not competing in the final, don't do it if you're competing in the final. So if you're a champion, this is not your diet, right? This is like we'll do it on Sunday, right? Before we get to the airport. That's what you do there. It's amazing.
Oh man, that's awesome. Oh man, well, Reid, thank you, man. Have a great one, and we will see you soon. Thank you for joining us on Inside Scoop, man.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
This has been another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I am Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. See you guys next week. Peace.